Hey everyone, it's John here from Hockey, back with another video, and this video is going to be my 2021 early UFA predictions. So for the NHL, free agency, where are the big names going to go? Let's go through it. Not going to waste any time. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. Hit that like button. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Get some of your predictions going. When it comes closer to free agency, I'll make it a bigger list and do massive predictions. But for now, let's go through the big names. Starting with the stars coming out of free agency, or at least the big names. Alex Ovechkin, I think he's going to stay in Washington. I either see that or him going to Russia. I just don't see any other scenario. I think the hockey world would absolutely explode if he went somewhere else. Dougie Hamilton, the hot take. The Leaf fans want to see it. I think there is a real possibility here. I don't think there's that many other options. I mean, I'm going to go through it, but Leafs, I think he very likely could go back to the Hurricanes. I think the Devils are in there as well. Outside of that, I don't think there's too many teams that either, one, can afford them, or two, that have that very specific need. Like, I could look at the Flyers, the Jets, like, those two teams, I think they're going to go after a right shot defenseman, but I have other names that they might focus on. Gabriel Landeskog, captain. I have him going back to the Avalanche. I just don't know if I see the captain leaving. I know there's been some rumors of him possibly going to the LA Kings, or one of those kind of up-and-coming teams going all out for Landy, but I have Landeskog going back to Colorado. I think they'll meet somewhere in the middle here, but I could be very wrong. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Okay, this one speaks like it screams him leaving Edmonton, but I'm going to still stick with him going back to Edmonton. But again, there's other teams out there like Carolina. I could see a team like that maybe needs some offense. I wonder what happens here with Montreal in the Cup final. I know they're going to have to get some replacements. I know for a team like Pittsburgh, they might want to change things in the offense, but their primary thing is goaltending right now. Then I think a team like Washington, Kuznetsov, that issue, I could see them going after a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins or one of these bigger names. But then you can go down the list. Like, there's so many teams, and that's the tough part. But Nuge back to Edmonton, I can very well see it. Look out for Columbus possibly looking for a center as well. Zach Hyman, hot take. I have him going to the Ottawa Senators. Hear me out for a second. I think he could go so many places, and I think there's still a sliver of a chance of him going back to Toronto. But Hyman, he's buds with Connor Brown. Ottawa's taken a couple former Leafs, and also I think it's a very good balance of Hyman. He'll probably get a big payday with a team like Ottawa, and he's kind of close to home. So that's why I'm balancing it here, where I think Hyman could still go to a contender, but if he wants to get the big payday, Ottawa could give him that. Tuukka Rask back to Boston. Taylor Hall to Boston. I think Taylor Hall could be one of those scenarios where he liked the fit. He goes back to Boston, just signs there long term, not at a crazy amount, like 6 or 7 mil per. But I could also see Taylor Hall going to a team like Toronto. I could see Taylor Hall going to a different contender. Like if Colorado, for example, like this is a big hot take, but if Colorado didn't re-sign Landeskog, I could see them going after Taylor Hall. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go next. Okay, so there's a couple bigger names here, but a lot of these guys are still like either top 6 forwards or like a top defenseman. So like Philip Grubauer staying in Colorado, Tyson Barrie staying in Edmonton, Philip Deneau staying in Montreal. Okay, so these are boring answers here, but I just think Phil Deneau out of these three are probably the most, like it's the most likely to leave only because of the cap hit. Because at the end of the day, can Montreal afford him? And also on top of that, does Montreal want to know long-term when you have Suzuki and KK? So that's the big question. I think a lot depends on what Montreal does again in the Cup final here as we're moving into the Stanley Cup final. Grubauer, I think Colorado gives them the money. I'm more confident in that than maybe even Landeskog, for example, but I'm confident in both. Tyson Barrie, I think either Edmonton goes for a big deal like a Seth Jones or something like that. Imagine Seth and Caleb reuniting in Edmonton. But I'll say this. I think Tyson Barrie realizes the success he had in Edmonton and potentially just returns. And I think he'll be pushing, his side will be pushing more to return to Edmonton. Thomas Tatar, hot take. Edmonton Oilers. I've been talking to Oilers fans. They want a bunch of forwards coming in. And then obviously potentially a new goaltender depending on the Mike Smith situation. But they need a whole freaking rebrand in that offense to help out Draisaitl and McDavid. So I want hot take. Tatar. Saw some 4.5, saw some 5. That might be too much, but I think Edmonton is trying to take risks here, and I could see them trying their very best to get rid of that James Dale contract. Kyle Palmieri. Hot take, but returning to the New Jersey Devils. He has this run with the Islanders here. I think he's going to want a payday. Unless the Islanders can move on from the Komarov or Ladd contracts, they're not going to have much cap space, and they have guys to re-sign. So I think Palmieri, he's going to want to stay in that area. I don't think the Islanders can afford him. We'll see, though. But if not, then I could see him just going back to the Devils, signing long-term there. Jaden Schwartz, back to the St. Louis Blues. I have 2 hot takes here. I think Jaden Schwartz could be a guy that actually goes to the Seattle Kraken through a trade or through something. But obviously, he is a free agent, so they could just wait till after, and Seattle Kraken could just sign him out, right? Or like just sign him straight up. But Brandon Saad, Pittsburgh Penguins. Brandon Saad's actually from Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh is going to want some extra help up there. I don't know if they're going to trade any of the big names, but I could see Saad going to Pittsburgh. And Schwartz, I also could see, that was kind of my hot take. I know Leaf fans have been talking about it. I think the Leafs are going to go after a left winger to obviously replace Hyman. So there's obviously a bunch of names you could go through. You could go through a Saad, you could go through a Schwartz, Hull. The Leafs are going to go after a left winger if they don't re-sign Zach Hyman. And David Krejci back to Boston. I don't see him going anywhere else. I think he'll take less to go back to Boston. All right, Nick Foligno back to the Leafs. Okay, I think the only other 2 places, and I'm locking this in right now because I would be absolutely shocked otherwise. I think Foligno either goes to the Leafs, he either goes back to Columbus, or he goes to the Minnesota Wild to reunite with his brother, Marcus Foligno. So, one of those for Nick. And the reason why I'm saying Leafs here is because I'm more on the side of him going Leafs or Blue Jackets here. And if he wants to go for a playoff push, the Leafs right now are giving me no hope of doing that, but they're more likely to do that than Columbus right now in their certain scenarios. So, Nick Foligno, unfinished business. Blake Coleman, hot take, New York Rangers. There's always been a weird connection between the Tampa Bay Lightning and Rangers, players kind of going through both organizations. I think the Rangers are looking for a little bit of grit, looking for a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. Blake Coleman brings both that and skill. And I think the Rangers can give him more money than the Lightning can. So I'm going Blake Coleman to the New York Rangers. Mikhail Granlund, there's always been a tie to Granlund and the Leafs. I think Granlund could go to the Leafs. I think he can go to the Habs. I think he could go to a team like, I think the Sabres have been interested in him in the past, but I don't know if Granlund wants to go there. I think he could also return to Nashville. He ended up returning to Nashville last offseason, so I could also see that. So that's where I'm going again. I think the Leafs are going to acquire a couple wingers, and that's where I'm going in that aspect. There's always been an interest there from Dubas. Adam Larson to the Philadelphia Flyers. I think, again, the Flyers are going to go after a right shot defenseman. It could be Adam Larson. It could be Seth Jones. It could be Dougie Hamilton. It could be David Savard. Go down the list. The Philadelphia Flyers will go after a right shot defenseman. And Adam Larson, I don't think would be too crazy for the cost. David Savard to the Winnipeg Jets. I suggested Savard being a perfect fit for the Jets at the deadline. Obviously, the Lightning scooped him up. But I think David Savard could be a perfect fit next to like a Morrissey. And Alec Martinez, Boston Bruins. I think the Bruins need a guy in that top 4. Martinez is very versatile into the fact that he can play on the left side and right side. Martinez wants another cup. I think the Bruins, it's getting close to the end there for this big core, but I think Martinez could go to Boston. Alex Goligoski, hot take, Vegas Golden Knights. They're going to need a replacement for Martinez in a sense. Goligoski doesn't bring everything Martinez does. He is older. He's like 35 at this point, but I do believe a veteran like that, I could see Vegas going after just like a veteran, a cheap defenseman like that at this point in his career. All right, so Mike Hoffman to the Seattle Kraken. You got it first here. I've been getting these vibes big time. I think one of the big Philadelphia Flyers forwards could end up with Seattle in terms of like a JVR, like a Voracek or something like that, right? I also think look at the interest of like the Nashville Predators, those big forwards, the big cap hits. But in terms of like a big name, we always see it, and, well, we've seen it in the past, but specifically with Vegas, we saw kind of the big like couple names, right? Fleury, Neal, guys like that moved into this. I think Mike Hoffman could be that. I honestly think Mike Hoffman could be that guy that's trying to find himself. It didn't really work in the last couple spots. Well, Florida was getting goals, but I could see it. I honestly could see a Mike Hoffman situation to the Seattle Kraken. So hot take, but I could see it. Paul Stastny back to the St. Louis Blues. I think this is a big if, depending on what Tyler Bozak does. I think if Bozak returns to St. Louis, that's your guy. But if you can get Stastny back, return him to St. Louis, I could see the fit. I'm going Getzlaf back to Anaheim. But I could very well see a scenario where Getzlaf signs a very little amount to go to a contender. So I'm saying Getzlaf back to Anaheim to retire a Duck and kind of help develop these younger guys. But like in terms of like a contender or like a team that might need like center depth. So like for example, Colorado, right? They moved on. Oh well, I shouldn't say they moved on, but like the Kadri situation. Are they going to trade Kadri? So they might need a center, and a cheap center like Getzlaf. Like I'm just thinking Toronto too. I'm thinking like there's a bunch of teams that might want that veteran guy. I mean, maybe Joe Sakic tries to pick up Getzlaf. Brandon Montour back to Florida. I actually like the fit. I think Montour was looking pretty decent with Florida. I don't think he was looking unreal, but I actually like the fit of Montour returning to Florida. And here you go, Edmonton Oilers fans. Peter Mrazek to the Oilers. I still am on the train of like, Koskinen, bye-bye. Do what you can to move that contract out. I've been kind of on the Mrazek like train to go to Edmonton for the last couple of years. So Mrazek to Edmonton, let's see it. Linus Ullmark to the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a huge hot take, but if Carolina moves on from both Mrazek and Reimer, I could see an Ullmark-Nedeljkovic tandem in Carolina. But I could also see a scenario where Mrazek just re-signs to Carolina and Ullmark to Edmonton maybe. I could see it. Freddie Anderson to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think they're going to try to move on from Jari or DeSmith and make some room there for a better, maybe more proven goaltender. Freddie Anderson could be that. I don't know the ultimate scenario here, but I do know Brian Burke's in Pittsburgh now, and I think he likes Freddie. I think Freddie Anderson could end up on a different team, and I think Pittsburgh could be that team. Mike Riley back to the Boston Bruins. I think in a smaller fit, especially if they got like a guy like Martinez, I think Mike Riley would be a perfect fit on that third pair for the Boston Bruins. I really like the fit, but I think he was asked too much in the playoffs, but I do think there's a decent fit there in Boston. So, back to the start here. Thank you so much, guys. Let me know what you think about my predictions. I'll be making, again, more videos, whether it's trade prediction videos, more free agency prediction videos, a lot of stuff to come on this channel. So I hope you do give the channel a chance, subscribe, drop a like, get your predictions in the comments, and you can reach out to me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, follow on TikTok as well, and I'll see you all soon. All right, have a good one. Peace out.